Now, which would you prefer? Would you prefer the current system that we operate, where we have tenure for 4 years, happening and possibly, giving our presidential and governorship candidates the opportunity to run for 2 tenures? Or would you prefer a single tenure of 6 years? That'll be one of the conversations that we're having this morning, as it is a conversation that has made it to the House. I am Olive Emodi, and you're welcome to Breakfast Central. And I am Osaogi Ogbawan. Yes, the conversation about a 6-year tenure has started in the National Assembly. And of course, like I always ask, who asked for it? But of course, those deliberations, are part of the conversations we're having this morning. Amongst other things, of course, the NLC and the federal government still going back and forth. Nigerians had feared that there would be a return to the strike again today, but it seems that, may not be happening. And also more drama in Rivers State House of Assembly, as of course, the court has given its affirmation on the 27 lawmakers who, claim to have moved from one party to the other. We also have Bola Tinubu, who's joining us with Breakfast Headlines. Good morning, Bola.
Good morning, Osaoge and Olive. Good to be here. Tuesday morning. A lot to talk about indeed, like you rightly mentioned, Osaoge. Top on the list, definitely is about labor, the new minimum wage. President of, organized labor, Joe Ajaero, gave a remark talking about that there will be no strike because the Tripartite Committee submitted their details of what they had delegated on, and they are waiting the federal government of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, to look at that and consider the figures submitted. And so in the light of that, they'll wait until the federal government sees that proposal they have submitted. And so there will be no strike. Actually, I saw a conference where he addressed people. It's important to note they are all in Switzerland, Geneva, for International Labor Conference. So we'll see and wait how that pans out when the federal government sees that proposal submitted by organized labor and also organized private sector.
Yeah, it would be nice if you gave a time frame, because they had initially given the government 5 days. So now, it seems like an indefinite time frame, for President Tinubu to look at those figures and maybe give, feedback to organized labor. And, nobody knows if it's going to happen in 2 weeks or in 6 months or in 2 years, So it would be nice if, if Joe Ajaero gave a time frame with which, labor is waiting after the 5 days had expired.
Well, I think they can't give a time frame now, because it would seem that the power is not really in their hands, right? They had a really strong bargaining chip last week, Monday, when the strike, everybody rallied around them, all the sectors in support of them, and the government gave them attention. I don't know about how the strength of another strike, or if they really are in the position to call shots right now to say, oh, we're giving, because they did give the current administration 5 days. 5 days have elapsed. And now, I don't know what
So that's what I'm saying. Well, yeah. If your 5 days has elapsed, and then you're then saying, oh, we're waiting for the president to, look at it. What if the president takes 2 years?
So what would we then expect them to say? Will we say that they can say another 5 days?
I can't put words in their mouth.
Well, from what they are saying, the government proposed 62,000 naira. And organized labor is suggesting 250,000 naira. And so Joe Ajaero is saying, in the light of all of that, they have submitted a proposed figure, in quote, and so they can't go on strike until the government, who is out, the president, who is out of the country, they're all in Geneva, Switzerland, for the International Labour Congress, until he looks at the books, looks at the figure, and then decides, then they take their next line.
So maybe that's some form of a timeline. We get what you're saying, but like Osaoge said, is how long will this take? When are we expecting some form of feedback? So
probably when the government returns.
It will then seem that when they are back from Geneva,
most likely
should be a reasonable time. But then Nigerians are certainly expressing their feelings regarding this potential strike. Yes, they've said there's no strike. Well, if they had decided to go on strike, would Nigerians have supported them is another conversation. It's one of the things that we'll be looking at later today when we head to X to see what Nigerians are saying.
It's a mess, and that's the way that I see it. It's just a complete mess, from the demands that they are making, to the reaction, of the government, to, of course, those who are then saying that maybe this isn't what labor should even be asking for, to, of course, the complete lack of the civil society. None of all of it, seems to show any signs that it would work, in favor of the Nigerian worker or the Nigerian civil servant. All of it just seems to be like we're walking in circles, and I think that at some point people are going to once again say, well, Labour has failed, because, they haven't achieved anything. They've gone back and forth, here and there with the government, but nothing tangible seems to have been achieved, with regards to whole conversations.
And guys, yeah, if I may, just to some words of what people call a bit of a cherry story. Over the weekend, Governor Abba Kabiru Yusuf of Kano State declared a state of emergency on education, where he gave soft loans to teachers, also scholarship, to some students in Kano State. And then he introduced a pre-marital mandatory screening where no one can wed in Kano until you go for screening and get your certificate from a government hospital showing you have tested, for hepatitis B, HIV and AIDS, as well as a genotype. Some people say it's, it's a cherished news for those in Kano. Some say it's not. What do you think, guys?
I think I should think that these things are normal things that people do when they want to get married. I don't know why it's, I don't know that it's something revolutionary. I think that young people typically would always do these checks before you get married, in most cases. It's a good thing. I just assumed that most people did these checks.
I'm guessing, across the state, it's not,
But if it's something that is not a general thing, then that's good.
Yeah.
I think that is good to be able to help with the control of the spread of certain diseases.
Yeah.
That's not to say that when any person tests positive for HIV or hepatitis B, they're doomed forever to remain single, as there have been situations where people still live healthy lives. It's just to ensure that there is early detection and they can get on their antiretroviral medication as early as possible. So
absolutely.
I think that that's a positive step in the right direction.
Yeah, but just before we go, just to quickly mention, the search continues for a missing plane, which of course was carrying the Malawi vice president. We heard about this yesterday, and of course, it's been hours, since that plane went missing. It was meant to land. I think the first news broke when it had been 7 hours gone, after he was meant to, have landed. And of course, nobody knows where the plane is. Right Honorable Dr. Salus Klaus Chilima and 9 others, of course, you can see it from the press release, failed to make its landing at the Mzuzu International Airport at 10:02. They, of course, are still searching for the plane, which is very scary because, scary. We just heard about the Iranian president that passed, along with a few others on his helicopter just a couple of weeks ago when the helicopter crashed. So this is really scary, and nobody knows till now where this plane is, or where, of course, the vice president of Malawi is. So, prayers up for them. We hope that, of course, they return home safe. That's just me being positive.
Honestly, being positive. It's scary whenever I hear stories about aircrafts, helicopters. It's always very scary because the chances usually, we don't want to be negative, so I think we'll just keep it that we're praying for the people of Malawi. We're praying that the aircraft be found and that it's not some negative news.
Yeah,
it's really not. It's not very encouraging, but we wish for the best.
All right.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I am Adebola Adeduba. We begin the news in Nigeria's Rivers State, where a state high court on Monday declared that Martin Amawule and 26 pro-Wike lawmakers are still members of the PDP, People's Democratic Party. The presiding judge, Justice Okubule Gbasem, ruled that the claimants failed to prove to the court that the 27 lawmakers truly defected to the APC, noting that the said defection cannot be established through newspaper publications, radio announcement, or online publications. According to the court, a defection can only be established through the party membership register, a membership card, and such members fulfilling all requirements of the membership in the party. Meanwhile, Rivers State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Dagogo Iboroma, says only a federal high court can determine whether Martin Amawule and 26 other lawmakers are still members of the PDP and the Rivers State House of Assembly. Iboroma urged the public to disregard the State High Court judgment. Let's also tell you that the Nigeria Customs Service says that Nigeria has continued to lose billions of naira to the activities of smugglers who sabotage the country's economy. The Controller General of Customs, while raising alarm over the activities of few smugglers, says if nothing is done to curb the situation, the effects will worsen the nation's current economic reality. Chairman, CEO, Nigerian in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri-Erawa, has condemned in strong terms what she called modern-day slavery following the intervention on 10 Nigerian girls trafficked to Ghana for prostitution under the guise of sales girls. She urged parents to always question the whereabouts of their children when taken away by relatives or friends and encourage collective effort to ensure traffickers are named and arrested. When I head to Southern Africa, where an aircraft carrying Malawi's Vice President, Salos Chilima, and 9 others has gone missing. A statement from the President's office said Malawi Defense Force aircraft went off the radar after it left the capital, Lilongwe, on Monday morning. The search and rescue mission was suspended late on Monday due to lack of equipment and capacity and will resume today. And to the Rainbow Nation now. The newly elected South Africa's parliament is to convene for the first time on Friday as political parties scramble to form a coalition after the general election produced no outright winner. Lawmakers in the 400-seat National Assembly will be called to appoint a speaker and start a process of electing the country's president for the first time since the advent of democracy in 1994. President Cyril Ramaphosa's African National Congress lost its absolute parliamentary majority in the May 29 vote. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. It's back to you, Osage and Olive.
Thank you very much, Debola, for bringing us Breakfast Headlines. It'll be interesting to see how the elections in South Africa turn out. They're going to be meeting to elect their president, and we want to see how that will turn out. It'll be very interesting. And I hope they're able to successfully elect the president, and it's not a lot of back and forth in that in their country.
Yeah. One of the things we're also going to be talking about today, it has been calm in Rivers State for a couple of weeks.
Yes.
But, it seems like the court ruling yesterday might, have brought back more drama. And so the rest of this week, I'm expecting that there's going to be a lot of back and forth, from the State House of Assembly to Government House and, every other concern, party. Yeah, and to the FCT also. But I'm not pleased. I have a smile on my face, but I'm not pleased that we're back to the drama again in Rivers State, because I really want some peace in that state.
Did you think that, or did you see that the court ruling was going to be in this direction? Did you?
I mean, so we're going to have a guest join us to talk about it, but I think so. And the reason is because if you remember during the elections, and the court cases during the elections, one thing that was made clear was you need to be able to prove your case beyond reasonable doubt.
Sure.
And so that's mostly what, this judge has done. You need to prove that these people actually, deported, is it the word, deported to the PDP or left the PDP rather to the APC. And if you can't prove it, then you can't just assume, that because they danced and sang with the PDP that they've left or the APC flag.
We'll talk about this in depth. I wonder, didn't they drop maybe resignation letters of some sort? Because I
don't know that they did.
State, a lot of the people who resigned dropped letters, declared their intention to no longer be a part of the party as they'll be moving to other parties or completely leaving the office that they were elected.
But I think there's a process for joining a political party. It's not just by word of mouth. There has to probably be you signing, and of course, take maybe, I don't know if there's an oath, but you need to sign some paperwork, and of course, maybe buy a form, and join the party officially.
Let's go and join political party. Some lawmakers from Nigeria's House of Representatives have called on citizens to support a proposal to amend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that will allow the rotation of the office of the president among the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. The lawmakers, about 35 in number, are also recommending a single tenure of 6 years and the creation of 2 offices for the vice presidents, saying this will help reduce the cost of governance and promote unity in the country. Idong Joseph brings us more in this report.
The proposed bill for the rotation of the position of the president is expected to rotate among the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. This is one among 50 proposals supposed to be presented by the lawmakers, which some have passed their first reading in the National Assembly. According to the lawmakers, the proposed amendments will help ensure efficient and effective use of state resources, promote unity, and combat uneven development across the country, amongst other benefits.
Recognize Nigeria's six geopolitical zones and provide for the rotation of the office of President, State Governor, and local government chairman among the inherent regions and zones. We have put provisions in place to ensure that when we say it's 6 years single term for a particular zone, it remains 6 years and it can never change. And that is why the bill is now proposing for the position of 2 vice presidents.
Given this full participation, you will understand that people will have roles to play at different levels.
The lawmakers, about 35 of them, recommended in their proposal that the first vice president and the president should come from the same part of the country, and the vice president shall assume the position of the president if he becomes incapacitated. While elections remain the only democratic means of bringing people into power in Nigeria, the lawmakers proposed reforms to address issues of corruption in Nigeria's electoral process.
And we're also pushing for a 1-year imprisonment for non-compliance against the rec or any concerned electoral officer, plus 7 years imprisonment without option of a fine for any returning officer who declares a false result not uploaded to the server or via the INEC electronic transmission devices, including results that the accreditation figures didn't tally with the number of vote cast.
All this we are doing in the interest of the public, of the Nigerian citizens. One, if all elections are held in the same day, it will reduce cost. Two, if all electoral matters are concluded before winners are sworn in, it will reduce cost.
To ensure that the bill successfully become law, the lawmakers pledged to rally support of all relevant stakeholders.
We're going to be looking at this conversation in depth. There are several angles to look at. Why exactly are they pushing for this single tenure of 6 years? And what exactly is the argument for and against it? We'll be having a guest join us much later on in the show as we explore this conversation even further. But now we're going to break. And when we come back, we'll have more conversations to talk about this morning on Breakfast Central. Welcome back. A Rivers State High Court sitting in Port Harcourt has declared that the 25 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, led by Honorable Martin Amewule, are still members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The court, in a decision on Monday, struck out a suit filed by Wusa Amadi and 3 others seeking to declare the seats of the 27 lawmakers vacant following their defection to the All Progressives Congress APC in December.
Justice Okogbule Gbasam in the judgment held that Martin Amewule and the 26 other lawmakers are still members of the PDP. He ruled that the claimants failed to prove to the court that the 27 lawmakers truly defected to the APC, noting that the said defection cannot be established through newspaper publications, radio announcements, or online publications. Joining us is legal practitioner Evan Tufeli and PDP chieftain in River State, Honorable Collins Odu. Good morning, and thanks for joining us. Honorable Odu, good morning, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Nigerians, and thanks for having me.
All right. I'm going to start with Mr. Ofeli and get your reactions to the judgment. Many people, of course, that I saw in the reactions online, completely disagreed with the court, and of course, accused the judge of, once again, being biased and some of all of that. But the lawyer to the 27 lawmakers mentioned that one of the things that was pointed out is that they weren't able to prove their case. Beyond reasonable doubt that these people joined or defected to the APC. Does he have a point?
Yes, public opinion is actually not legal opinion. Legal opinion goes deeper. He that asserts must prove. That is the law. The Evidence Act establishes that except that the 27 members have never said they did not defect. But that does not mean when you are in court, you should not prove your case. You go to court to prove your case with evidence.
Yes.
Now, what the court is telling us here is that declaration, newspaper, online publication is not sufficient to evidence defection. That's what the court is saying, that the claimants could not prove their case, that they should go beyond just what they heard what they have seen. They should be able to get documentary evidence to the effect that these persons actually defected. They now belong to the new political party as alleged, and they should show evidence of membership, registration of the new political party, and also show that they have been delisted from their previous political party, that is the PDP. That's what the court is saying. Go beyond hearsay, show us. And that is what the court will naturally do, even though it's not a popular position. But the court will not take what is popular and discard what principles of law should be. I mean, all over the internet, people have been saying all sorts about how the court is biased, how this and all, or a lot of things have been said so far. But you see, public outcry cannot rewrite the law.
Yes.
The Evidence Act is quite clear and established. That does not mean I am in support of the judgment.
Because I wanted to ask exactly what your position is.
No, I have to state the law. What I came to do here is analysis.
Great.
Not to take a position on the issue under reference. But what I'm saying, from any lawyer is watching or anybody that have inkling in legal disposition, you will know that evidence is what rules proceedings of court. Everything we do in law lands on the hallmark of evidence. So where you have no evidence to entrench your claim, the court cannot, provide that evidence for you or write the law just because there's public outcry so that everybody will be fine and okay. No, you have to stick to what the principles of law. So that is exactly what it is. But there's also another judgment where they got an interim injunction asking the 27 lawmakers to stop parading themselves. There was a judgment before now.
Yes.
You understand? That was an interim order. You understand? That order have not been vacated. But I think by now it should have expired. But it has not been vacated. Now you have another one. So I think that perhaps the parties involved should step up to a higher court, in terms of appeal, and then see what the appeal will be.
So this order doesn't automatically invalidate that, or this judgment doesn't automatically invalidate the interim order?
The interim order by now had expired.
Okay, great. All right, let's bring in Honorable Collins Odu and find out what exactly are your thoughts about how this has turned out, and also how do you think the people in Rivers State are receiving the judgment of the court? Or how do you think, how are the people of Rivers State receiving this judgment?
Good morning, Nigerians, and thank you once more for having me. I will gladly want to tell the entire world that the entire Rivers State has been in jubilation since yesterday after that judgment, because there has been so much tension as regards the tenure and stability of the lawmakers. It got to a point where the governor became a judge. He just woke up and decided to disassociate himself from the assembly members and then set up a kangaroo one to operate in the state. And there has been tension because ab initio, the activities of the 4 lawmakers, this, for now there are 3 because Right Honorable Disine here is no longer with them. They were aptly and very professionally suspended from the House by the sitting House before all of these problems started. And the involvement of the governor with this faction has kept Rivers people to wonder if there is no longer law. The judgment yesterday is an upliftment to the souls of Rivers people, not only as PDP members, because you find out a situation where people just act and they don't take into consideration the laws of the land. I want to thank the lawyer there. You see, the issue of cases in court, it's not about what you think. It's about facts. And if you can produce facts, you can as well have the day. And that is what the section or the people who the Amewule-led House of Assembly members have kept to. They have kept to the law. If you notice, even when there was a kangaroo judgment order that restrained them from operating, ever since they have not operated because they are guided by the law. They have not operated. They have kept mute and waiting for the time that the law will speak, because they know the law will speak and the law has spoken.
Yeah, but I mean, I always try to understand, the motivations behind, their actions initially, because now it's clear that, at least from this court judgment, if there's no proof beyond reasonable doubt, just like Barrister Ophelia has said, that, they left one party and moved to the other party. Tell us a little bit about, what we're seeing in those pictures. What prompted their, initial moves, to wave APC flags, to claim to have dumped the PDP and moved to the APC. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. It is no longer news that in Rivers State, we voted the presidency, APC, and then all other positions, including that of the governor, we voted PDP. What you saw them singing there was a song of the president they voted to give him support for him to operate effectively. You see, people keep wondering, the former governor, Wike, is a maverick. He is a Machiavellian when it comes to politics. He can throw up any kind of card at any point in time. At that prevailing moment, perhaps there were certain moves that they needed to make to be sure of what they did, and they went ahead to do it, and people misconstrued it. As I speak with you now, there was no resignation letter written by any one of them resigning from the PDP, and there is no membership card obtained from APC. People misconstrued the fact that they are supporting the person they voted, and they began to take it far and wide. And true to it, you see, I handed over to Martin Amewule when I left the assembly. And because his life was encumbered, endangered, you recall that there was a time when they besieged his house and they almost wanted to lynch him. And ever since, I haven't been able to locate him, to hear all of these things, because they were all, we saw them as, I thought they were acting film, and that is what everybody thought. I haven't been able to see him and say, look, my brother, this is what I heard, and this is this. Their lives are endangered, and they had to even reinforce security with them. So we must go beyond rhetorics of social media.
So none of these lawmakers, just to be clear, none of these lawmakers in December when this happened, none of them said that they were moving to the APC. They were simply just singing APC songs and, singing in support of Mr. President. That's what you're saying. They never made any statements claiming to be defecting to the APC.
You heard me. You see, the process of being a new member of the party.
I understand that. I'm just saying that, in December when this happened, none of them made any statements claiming to defect to the APC. That's what you're saying?
Like I told you, I was unable to reach him because we saw that as drama. Perhaps I thought maybe there was a film they were acting. You get? So I've not been able to meet with him to say, look, my brother, this is what I heard. Is it true or false? So I cannot completely speak on that issue now. Not until I meet with him and then he explains to me.
Since December, you haven't spoken with him?
No, I haven't spoken with him.
All right. Okay. Let's bring the conversation back here to Mr. Ophelia. I just want you to quickly clarify, because there's a report on the Vanguard newspaper, the Rivers State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice Dagogo Ibroma, I'm going to quote exactly how the paper reports it. He said that the news that the court affirmed the lawmakers were still members of PDP and the Rivers State House of Assembly was misleading, stressing that the information is meant to deceive the public. He went further to say that the suit of the claimants was struck out for want of local standing and jurisdiction, and also for being an abuse of court process, which robbed the trial judge of jurisdiction to adjudicate on the matter. So are they trying to say here that maybe we will still need to go and, or they will still need to go and maybe file a suit to prove their membership? Is that what he's trying to say?
No. What he's saying is that the outcome that is in the public domain now, that the court actually said they did not defect. And that is not what the court said, according to him. That the court does not have jurisdiction. Usually, when a case is between, the National Assembly, the House of Assembly is a government institution. Okay, when you have a case between an individual and an institution, or you have a case between an institution and an individual, or an institution with another institution of government, the court that has jurisdiction is actually the Federal High Court and not the State High Court. So what he's saying is that the judge does not have jurisdiction, that the case was struck out as against what is in the public domain, that
they had said that they are members of the House.
Yes, that is what he said yesterday.
Okay.
Okay, so now, until we see the judgment, because this was delivered yesterday, until we see the judgment and reading between the lines of judgment, we cannot tell whether he's saying the truth or what we have is the truth.
Right.
Until the judgment is out. It's going to be all over the social media,
yes,
definitely. But the content of the judgment will really speak for that case as it is.
Do you know what the likely possible options, legal options going forward from here are?
Well, the legal options usually appeal, right? If you are not satisfied, I mean, that's the court of first instance. We have other layers where they can actually go to litigate on this matter. He's saying that they never defected. The court is also saying they never defected. But they were on TV making expression of defection in December. I mean, some of them even granted interviews, okay, sharing their dissatisfaction as to why. But the truth is that whichever way it is, the claimant ought to have actually present those video clips to the court, okay, that these persons in question made these declarations verbally before a national TV. And this is electronic evidence to that effect.
And that would have been admissible, right?
But that was actually, yes, electronic evidence is admissible based on Section 84 of the Evidence Act.
Yeah, but Mr. Aldo says they didn't. Mr. Aldo,
exactly, I wanted to bring him back.
Just like I asked earlier, I'm not sure maybe you didn't see the video clips where they of course verbally declared their defection to the APC. Did you not see any of those?
Anyway, like I said, there were video evidence that such happened, but I said I have not been able to verify from him because we saw it as a drama. I still say so. Is it like his life was threatened and it's the security around him has been beefed up and I've not seen him. So, but the fact is that we will go beyond those social media rhetorics and face facts. The facts, see, I was a former member of the APC. And when I was leaving APC,
while you were in, I'll let you go on. I just wanted to ask, while you were, in active service in the House, did you normally have regular drama sessions as the members of the House? Were these things normal every now and then?
Yeah, they are normal because sometimes when the people of the Hollywood, Nollywood, when they actually want to do anything, they can reach out to you and then you will avail yourself of whatever act they want to perform. But I have not confirmed this. This was what was filtered to us, but I have not been able to confirm it. Until I meet with him, then I'll be certain about that.
Do you plan to meet with him anytime soon? And I'm asking this because for the longest time, that was the subject of conversation on several media outlets. TV outlets were talking about it on TV stations, and there were people who were speaking in support of them, saying that, you know, the defense for, whilst they were quoting, whilst some argued, well, quoting the section of the Constitution that says that you're not allowed to, if you leave the office, you know, you're automatically leaving the political party. Or if you leave the political party, you automatically have to vacate your seat in the office. And the defense to that was that, oh, there was chaos in the party, if they could prove that there was chaos in the leadership of the party. And this was conversation that was making the rounds. And, you know, I don't know how, I mean, you've said that you found out to be drama. I'm hoping that you can maybe have a conversation with him and we can have you back soon. I'm not quite sure. I feel like we might have had you then speak in support of that defection. I'll probably go back and check, but I'm not quite sure.
Oh, yeah, we did.
But let's talk about what this would mean for leadership in Rivers State going forward. There's been a lot of drama in the past few weeks and months. Actually, in the past year, Governor Siminalayi Fubara has not been able to step into his role as governor because it's been some sort of battle. So how do you think that this will affect his tenure going forward?
Yeah, it's going to be in the positive direction because see, the problem he has been having is the fact that there has been a divided House of Assembly. So he does whatever he wants to do with whichever he wants to in flagrant disobedience to a court judgment by Justice Omotosho, which states that first, that he cannot determine where they will sit. Two, he cannot determine who is their clerk, and then that he should make available all the necessary logistics that the House would need. So when he now kept them aside to operate with 3 lawmakers, then this problem in the states came up. So now, if all that the current judgment has installed is to bring peace, so that there won't be divided house and the governor will now be focused and be relating with one house, I think that will create a very conducive atmosphere for him to operate.
All right. Mr. Fele, I want your thoughts on this. You know, if you remember when this happened, there was a reaction from the PDP, I think through its legal representative, saying that these persons have lost their seats and they will not be, accepted back to the party. So I want your thoughts on that one. And I think they clearly stated, parts of the Constitution, and legal items that defended that decision. So, so how do you think this will turn out?
Section 109.
Yes.
I mean, they were aggrieved. I mean, the PDP in the states, and they made a public statement to the effect that the following persons have lost their seat because it was an embarrassment to them.
Yes.
And but you also know that there was also an expression from the APC. Do you remember? The APC chieftain came out in Rivers State and said that these members are not their members.
I remember.
Yes.
You understand? So he's saying it was a drama. I don't know when legislative function became drama or when, I don't know how we got there. But I feel that these persons actually defected, but they did not perfect their defection. And now because the water is getting very cold, they seem displaced in a way. So they're taking advantage of the fact that they did not go ahead to register with the APC as a shield of defense in court. That's the truth. Not many people will say what I've said now, but that's the truth. And then the law, seems to have come to their aid in a particular way because you cannot actually show any documents. And then the parties who went to court did not front-load the electronic evidence where they made those expressions in court, in their chambers. When they did that, they could not have just, pull themselves together and sing songs to praise the president, or like he said, that couldn't have been the case. There are actually more than that number in the House. So what happened to others if they all supported the APC president and they were giving eulogies like he said? What happened to the other ones, the 4 or 3?
Reading the script.
Okay, yes. Yeah. So it's a case that they were actually out of the party okay, but they did not finish it on the other end.
Right.
And so they can as well claim today that they never defected.
Well,
Just because we have no documentary evidence.
I mean, that's what they're claiming now, right? I want us to quickly bring in Honorable Collins Odo. Very quickly, I mean, you have said, just to reiterate, you've said that you did not believe that you weren't sure exactly what the situation is and you thought it was some sort of drama, correct?
Very correct, but let me clear something there. He was talking about defection. I was coming with a point, but somehow I was cut off. I said I was in the APC before I left for PDP. And the process of defection entails you to write a resignation letter. And I don't want us to begin to overflog this. Let us look at what one will do and say, look, I've defected, so that we don't vilify these guys for no just reasons.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that. And I was asking if, I wanted you to reiterate your position, because if you say that you weren't sure exactly what the position was because there's a clear-cut procedure for how to resign from a political party and that you thought that it was some form of drama, yet these lawmakers, we have videos of them on television, talking about leaving the party and chanting the praises of the supposed other party. Does that not reflect on the quality of their character as maybe people who are unserious and there to act drama? I mean, you say it's a really normal thing. Shouldn't that be like a poor reflection on the quality of
You're making it look like my assertion now is the reality. I told you that's what I thought, and that was feelers we got. I haven't been able to confirm that with him. But be that it may, I will confirm that with him. But what we are looking at now is, look, these people were heavily endangered. You recall that from time to time when they were not attacked, the spokesperson of the House normally comes out to give us details of what goes on. But true to it, that man was frightened to his brain, and he no longer continued that. So for now, nobody can say this is this, this is that, except you hear from their spokesperson who has for a long time not spoken.
I mean, what concerns, how do you link them being endangered with them singing or taking part in Nollywood drama in the House? What is the connection between these two things? If they were endangered, was the next, step, if they felt endangered and their lives threatened, was the next step to then, take a script from a Nollywood actor and take part in a drama in the House? Would you?
No, I refer to them being endangered because I haven't been able to have access to them, and that made them shut themselves.
All right, just before we, because we're out of time for this. I want your quick response to the letter written by elder statesman Chief Edwin Clark. He wrote a letter to, I believe, Sekibo. Of course, he spoke about the current crisis in River State. And then, of course, he spoke also on the issues. The relationship the Ijaw people have had with River State and in the last couple of decades, and the role that they've played in support of the state, and then ended it with of course a warning. A word is enough for the wise, he wrote in the 16th item on the letter. But before that, he also quoted Wike is only loyal to himself and nobody else, irrespective of his feigned allegiance. He may kowtow and genuflect before a political leader, as he's currently doing in Abuja. But once he can no longer use you, he goes into a fit of incoherent and verbal assault, denigrating his benefactors. Almost everything that Nyesom Wike said in public has been repudiated by him. He's indeed a man of contradiction and inconsistency. From the PDP primaries, where he vowed to support whoever emerged as candidate, to his vow to not be minister, he goes on to say a lot. I'm not sure if you've seen the letter, but do you have quick thoughts on that one?
Yeah, without any intention to denigrate the elder statesman, but I think he is presumed, or rather he has taken sides. I would have expected him to act, even after the former president, Jonathan, came and appealed that there should be peace. The other statesman had rather taken to this drag him down syndrome of several politicians around the Niger Delta on Chief Barrister E.N. Wike. I expected something more reasonable to come out of him. I was expecting that he would come up, having heard from the former president, and toe a line, because there's no way disorderliness can earn us anything good. As another statesman, he misfired.
Okay.
Totally out.
All right.
Honorable Collins Odu, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on that and all the other conversations that we've had regarding River State. We wish River State all the best this morning. Thank you for your time with us.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Ofili, for joining us this morning. It's been a pleasure having you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to the next story. The organized labor insists that 62,000 naira or 100,000 naira minimum wage proposal for Nigerian workers by the federal government will not be acceptable. Recall the one-week grace period given to the federal government to review its proposal last Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. Would expire by midnight on Tuesday, June 11th, 2024.
Now, the NLC President Joe Ajaero, however, confirmed that an industrial action will not be declared yet, as the figure presented by the Tripartite Committee on Minimum Wage with President Bola Tinubu and Labour awaits the President's decision on the figure. We, of course, will be having an expansion on these discussions, as we go on with the program this morning. But let's quickly share with you reactions from Reverend Father Ejike Mbaka to, of course, issues going on across the country currently.
If we decide to give labor people 60,000 naira or 62,000 naira, why not generalize it to House Assembly members, to senatorial members, to House of Reps members, to our governors? All of them are civil servants, are they not? Yeah. So if all of them are civil servants, why are these people slaves? Have they come to serve who? Because we cannot imagine why somebody can be amassing billions and billions and billions, sitting allowance, newspaper allowance, wardrobe allowances, vehicle allowances, and what they call suffering allowances or what? Eh? Suffering allowances. So the people that should have such allowance should be the poor masses in the villages. If a teacher, how much are they being paid for those who are grooming our children for us? How much are they being paid? Our nurses, how much are they being paid? Our doctors, how much are they being paid? Let us be realistic. Our civil servants that wake up from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they wake up early and come back late. How much are they being paid? And look at the level of inflation in the country. How are we becoming sincere? All of us should know we are not sincere. So I am pleading with the government that a stitch in time can save 9. It's a matter of handling the bull by the horn, tactfully, but very, very speedy. Because if they are not careful, this crisis of a thing can be hijacked and nobody will know the ripples effect. If they succeed in doing that, everybody will be endangered. If the government now will go on strike, labor will say, don't come out. No vehicle will move. Nobody will sell petrol. NEPA will not work.
Well, very popular church leader there, Reverend Father Ejike Mbaka, every now and then gets himself involved in political conversations. But he does have a strong point. You may not agree. There's been people who have said that, I think there was an argument a couple of weeks ago about, Nigerian lawmakers earning the most across the world or across the continent even, which, of course, if you questioned, you might find out is actually true. But he does have a point. There is no defense, there's no explanation as to why these people should earn so much. There's nothing in particular that they do or give to the country that, makes them deserve that level of, of earnings. There's nothing. You can't defend it. I mean, it's not like they work the most hours. It's not like, they gave some extra level of skill that is required.
No,
they're not astronauts.
There's an extra level of skill because for you to be able to argue in support or against bills, it takes a lot of wisdom and experience.
Olive, please. You can argue at any,
I disagree with. Please
motor
allow
park.
allow me. Allow me.
If argument was the basis, point of order.
Please. You need expertise to be able to speak to the merits or the demerits of certain bills.
And sleep off, halfway
and
through
look
arguments.
at the phenomenal move they've made to ensure that our national anthem has been restored to its true glory.
Please.
So there's a lot of work that the lawmakers are doing, and we must applaud them for constantly working and looking out for the average Nigerian.
There is no educational requirement either. That is, you don't need a PhD to become a lawmaker.
I know what is even very.
There's
what's
absolutely
exciting
nothing
about their role? It's the longevity. You can be there for years.
30 years.
Now you know what that does.
Yeah.
The longer you do something, the more specialized you are in that. So we have expert lawmakers.
There are people
because
who
they have
PhD
done internship. They've done internship. They've graduated in the house. They've gotten their masters and their doctorate.
I agree with you.
They are doing excellently well.
I agree with you.
I must applaud our lawmakers.
They've given 30 years of
service. In fact, they should then have. By the time they are leaving, they should then throw a retirement party for them.
I agree.
Because they are leaving the house finally.
It's embarrassing, but I mean, and these are the type of deliberations that we're having in Nigeria in 2024, which for me, I'm very, very much ashamed. I had a conversation with my dad yesterday, and we were talking about some of all these things, and I said to him that I can't believe that these are the kind of things that we're still talking about in Nigeria in 2024 amongst members of the National Assembly. The argument about whether cows are to be treated as human beings or not. They're just some things that you can't just explain. And so, yes, there's no defense, there's no argument that would work in favor of lawmakers earning that much, because there's nothing whatsoever that they put in to get into those positions. There's no extra skill. Another thing is the Nigerian worker puts in 35 years of their lives to public service.
And what do they get? Yeah, their pension and some of them don't even get access to their pension. They end up dying in queues waiting for their pensions.
Some pitiable pensions.
Kind to our senior citizens.
Yes.
I've been working for how many years? The other day I looked at my pension allowance and I was just like, wow. One good.
These are things that just get you riled up, when you listen to these things as a Nigerian, because it makes no sense. Why does a governor serve for 4 years with no skill or educational requirement that is beyond primary or secondary school? Why does a governor serve for 4 years and then gives himself an entitlement that a Nigerian worker who would work for 35 to 40 years would almost never get to see? So these things don't make any sense. Neither does it make any sense in the National Assembly.
In conclusion, monkey they walk, babu they chop.
No, it's not. It's not even monkey. I mean, you could describe it
because at the end of the day, the people that are putting in so much work don't get in as much as they're putting in. They're not being prioritized and they're not getting the best quality of life.
It is just irritating.
We will continue to talk about this. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're looking now at the front pages of the newspapers to see the stories that have made the headlines. And joining us to analyze the stories is the publisher of the niche newspaper, Ikechukwu Amechi. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Always my pleasure, Olive.
Always a pleasure to have you. Let's get into the paper this morning. We're beginning with this Nigerian newspaper. And on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper, court strikes out suit to sack 27 Rivers lawmakers, says no evidence to show they defected from PDP to APC. Why we can't declare another strike now? Good for you, NLC. Ajaero says workers' union awaits Tinubu's word on minimum wage before taking next step. Tripartite committee submits report to federal government. Southwest governors renew calls for creation of state police, elect Sanwo-Olu as the forum's chair. Kano distributes 5th presidential palliatives to the vulnerable across 44 local governments, receives more commodities. Amid CBN's tightening measures, money supply surged to 96.97 trillion naira in April. And that's all on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper. Let's see what the Punch says.
All right, the Punch this morning, big story. Smuggled Nigerian petrol floods West African markets. Sells at 1,700 naira per litre. Petrol hits 1,672 naira per litre in Benin, Cameroon. 2,062 in Liberia. 1,428, and of course Mali with 2,128 naira per litre. That's shocking. 280,000 litres intercepted in Adamawa, Sokoto, Kebbi, Katsina, Borno, Taraba, and Ogun State. It seems like it is, it's Christmas for petrol smugglers in these parts of the country. Minimum wage, Labour insists on 250,000 naira, awaits Tinubu's verdict. We can also find here Southwest Governors Forum insists on state police elects Sanwo-Olu as chair. Reps propose rotational presidency and 6-year single term. And also police foil Americans' suicide attempt on Third Mainland Bridge.
Huh?
2 points. Police foil an American suicide attempt on Third Mainland Bridge.
Oh, wow.
I'm just saying, like, if it's so tough, you know, for
an
American, you imagine what Nigerians are dealing with,
yeah.
you know, and how many of them, you know, might
well,
consider
although
suicide.
we're assuming here that the attempt is because of the hardship in the country, it might just be a mental health issue.
Might also be price of tomatoes. 2.7 billion naira fraud. Ex-director testifies against Sirika. That's what we can find on the Punch. Let's go to the Daily Independent.
All right, and on the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper, reps seek single tenure of 6 years for president and governors, rotation of presidency among 6 geopolitical zones. Southwest governors adopt common agenda for regional prosperity. Southeast among highest in human trafficking according to NAPTIP. Federal government, states, local governments share 1.143 trillion naira May 2024 revenue. Again, CBN reassures on safety of banks. They are going to do a lot of reassurance. After the shutting down of Heritage, everyone is on the edge at this point. Tinubu appoints ex-DIG Agungu, chairman of PSC. PDP silent as court declares pro-Wike lawmakers members. Court didn't say assemblymen are PDP members, according to the Rivers AG, which is something that we talked about earlier. CSO petitions NJC over Rivers High Court judgment. Aircraft carrying Malawi's vice president still missing, yet to be found. National Assembly invites stakeholders over airport's concession. Labour may resume strike as deadline to federal government ends today. So there's been a lot of back and forth on that. But Labour has said they're not going on strike, at least not yet. But let's begin with the big story on the paper. The pink elephant in the room. Reps seek single tenure of 6 years for presidents and governors and rotation of presidency among 6 geopolitical zones. This is not the first time that we've seen this call for a single tenure of 6 years for presidency. Ohanaeze Ndigbo have called for it. Even at the 9th Assembly, there was an actual debate on the House when this was proposed. I want to find out what your thoughts are regarding this. And if you think that this will in any way foster the course of democracy, because I watched one of the arguments, maybe not even in this one, at the last assembly, and they said by the time they know it's going around the geopolitical zones, the current tussle we have for power will not be as intense as it typically is. But I would like to find out what your thoughts are.
Well, like you said, it's not particularly a new development. Of course, during the presidency of Goodluck Jonathan, the issue also came up. I think that Jonathan favored a single tenure presidency. And in fact, if you also look at what happened in the Abacha conference, I think that was in 1995. That was where we derived these 6 zones that the late Dr. Alex Ekweme, former vice president, championed. It was all tailored towards having a single tenure so that the thing can now go around the 6 geopolitical zones, and after that we will decide what we'll do with ourselves. The major argument that it makes for inclusiveness. If you think that, okay, of the 6 zones we have, since 1999, only 3 zones have produced the president, and that Southwest that produced Obasanjo and now Tinubu, Northwest that produced Yar'Adua and Muhammadu Buhari, and of course the South that produced Goodluck Jonathan. So as it were, Southeast has been shut out, Northeast shut out, North Central shut out. Part of the argument in this very last election before Tinubu stepped on the stage is that, look, if it is coming to South, and since Olusegun Obasanjo from the Southwest had been there for 8 years, it should go to Southeast. But of course, we are where we are today. So people are saying that if you rotate, if you make it a constitutional issue so that if this zone finishes, they will know that it won't be their turn again until it goes all around. It will make for inclusiveness. People won't think that they are being deliberately excluded from the national pie, as it were. That said, another argument also is that, look, that what we have now is not working, and it is not working because if you're elected president today, if you're elected governor today, in fact, the very first day you get into office, you start planning for your re-election. All the decisions, all the actions that you take are geared towards the things that give you advantage so that you will be re-elected. If you watch most of the decisions that have been taken by the Tinubu presidency, including the subsidizing of Hajj with 90 billion naira, it is to appease the Muslim North. And the idea is to let them think that he is sympathetic to whatever they think they are doing. How can you subsidize Hajj with 90 billion naira in an economy where you are saying that you can't even subsidize any other thing? So, and of course, the argument also is that if you make it one tenure, this struggle, this 4-year struggle that creates almost existential crisis for the democracy itself and for our country, it won't be there. So that if you're elected, you know that you have 5 years, you know that you have 6 years to be there. So that you do what you can for the purposes of legacy, assuming you think you want to leave a legacy.
Doesn't that make, do you have the concerns, that people get in there and do everything to favor their regions for those 6 years alone?
It may be an issue, but my counterpoint to that argument is that if you get in there and use 6 years to favor your region, you will know that another person will come in, and if the person uses 6 years to favor his own region, by the time we spend
36 years.
36
years.
Yeah.
That means that the country must have been developed.
But the first people's own will be expired. So
and you go back there. So I don't have any issues with that. But the problem we have is not because of the system. This system works in other places. The problem we have is the attitude of the players in the system. It is the players who are corrupting what we have now, and not necessarily that the system is bad. The idea of the 2 terms is that when you do a first term and you are re-elected, it is a validation of the work you have done, that the people say you have done well. Democracy has a way of rejuvenating itself.
But has this two-tenure system that we're running so far, has it really favored Nigerians?
That's what I'm saying. I say it is not working. What we have now is not working, because what we have is that it is almost a guarantee that when you win your first term, second term is almost taken for granted.
Yes. You have nothing to prove again in the second term.
Don't worry about Goodluck Jonathan. His being defeated as an incumbent president is an aberration. It is not the norm. The norm is that as a president, you must win, because you have all it takes.
Yeah.
You control the security. INEC is not independent. Forget the name. The INEC chairman appointed by the president is subservient to the president. And we have also seen a collapse of the judiciary. So an incumbent president or a governor actually has no reason to lose election. So the 2 terms is not working, but not because it is problematic in itself, but the people who are operating the system are not going to allow it to work. With the single term work, again, the answer blows in the wind. It depends on the people who are going to
which is true, you know, regardless
operationalize
of what type of system you bring into Nigeria, you know, it's the people who, you know, run those systems that will determine whether it would work. Same thing with the INEC chairman, and whatever reforms, electoral reforms that you put into, you know, the Nigerian system.
Exactly.
Same thing with, you know, I would even dare to say same thing with Biafra. Whenever, you know, if ever that happens, it's still the same people who would run the system that will determine if that will be a successful project or not. Let's go to Rivers State. Court strikes out 27 Rivers lawmakers, strikes out suit rather to sack 27 Rivers lawmakers. What are your quick reactions?
It is, in fact, what is going on in Rivers State is a shame of the country, and the fact that the judiciary, look, the weakest link in this, our democracy, is not even the legislature that people always point accusing fingers at, fingers of blame. It is, for me, the judiciary. Because there are some judgments that are given. Of course, on the face of it, technically, you could say, because the argument of the court is that their names are still in the register of the PDP and not in APC, and therefore they are still members of the PDP. But these were people who, on national television, were waving brooms.
And the APC flags.
And APC flags.
And singing on your mandate we shall stand.
And said they had defected, they had left the party that brought them into power. But of course, you know what is going on in Rivers. It's not about the legality or not. This is the politics. Politics of Wike, the Federal Capital Territory Minister, and Fubara, the incumbent governor of Rivers State. Let us see how far they can go. I can assure you that they will appeal that judgment. And don't forget, there is also a subsisting judgment of a court in Rivers State that has not been vacated, which said that these people have lost their seat by virtue of their defection. So, calls of coordinate or jurisdiction giving judgments that are neither here nor there, that conflict each other. It is a shame, but that's where we are. All over the country, if you have enough resources, you can get the kind of judgment that you want. The judiciary is no longer the last hope of the common man. As somebody, I think it was Professor Chidi Odinkal, who now calls it the lost hope of the common man. But it's a shame.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how, you know, eventually turns out. Oliver, I think maybe the labor
all right,
story,
I think let's see which paper did we take last. We took the Daily Independent. Let's take the Punch this time around. Well, quickly, let's see one story from the Punch newspaper. And on the front page of the Punch newspaper, too many stories. Okay, let's talk about minimum wage. Labour's insisting on 250,000 naira, awaiting Tinubu's verdict.
I don't know what to say about that, but I think the Labour leadership, the organized Labour, allowed Tinubu to dribble them. And now, to start any other strike, I'm not too sure that people will enthusiastically embrace strike as they did last week. So it's a difficult situation, but hey, what do you do? I think we dealt with this issue here last week.
Yeah.
Can a Nigerian honestly survive on 62,000 as minimum wage, which is the same thing, which is the thing that government is offering? My honest opinion is no, it is not possible. And the governors are saying that they can't pay. In fact, they can't even afford to pay 60,000. I think the governors are proposing 57 or whatever. Yet, the governors forum yesterday said that all subsidies, electricity subsidies should be removed. So the whole burden is going to start piling on these people that you say you can't even pay more than 57, whereas nobody is cutting the cost of governance.
Yeah.
They are celebrating building a 21 billion mansion for the vice president.
Right after paying 90 billion for Hajj.
After paying 90 billion to subsidize Hajj. Look, I have always maintained that our leaders are taking us for granted because they know they don't need your vote. Because they don't need your vote to come into power. In any climb, in any polity where the leaders know that the people can vote them out, they will be more responsible, they'll be more responsive. We have a whole lot of irresponsibility going on in the name of governance in this country. And I don't see it stopping anytime soon because they don't need your votes to remain in power.
Unfortunately. Ikechukwu Amechi, thank you very much. We, of course, would wrap up here. Thanks for joining us and for sharing with us. Again, no happy news across the newspapers in Nigeria. One more day
one day, it go better.
One more day of no happy stories. But thanks for stopping by and for sharing with us. We, of course, will continue to monitor things in River State and with the NLC and see how they turn out. We, of course, we would quickly take a short break. When we come back, we continue conversations this morning on Breakfast Central.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, this is what Nigerians are saying, where we head to social media to look at some of your responses to some of the biggest stories that have been, making the waves on social media. Now, talking about EFCC being on the fire and the Akure protests, Nigerians have angrily called out the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, for allegations bordering on abuse, assault, theft, and destruction of property disguised as a raid on fraudsters. The said raid was carried out in the wee hours on Saturday, the 9th of June. EFCC operatives simultaneously raided 2 clubs and arrested 127 suspected internet fraudsters. Since the raid occurred, reports have flooded social media with eyewitness accounts, pictures, photos, and videos alleging the inhumane treatment of Nigerian citizens by the officials of the EFCC. Now, there were reports of people being beaten and properties being stolen, issuing of threats and tampering with the CCTV, all which, come to be a part of the violation of the fundamental human rights of the Nigerian citizens. Now, in a statement on its account on X, the EFCC has refuted these claims, stating that the anti-graft agency executed a sting operation based on credible intelligence and leading to the arrest of suspected fraudsters. It expressed shock at the narratives and videos on social media, stating that these may have been stage managed and as such will be subjected to forensic analysis to establish its falsehood. The FCC also denied tampering with any CCTV, but stated that the device was removed by staff of the club at the instance of operatives of the commission to preserve the footage for further analysis of the role of each of the arrested suspects in the alleged crime. Now, Nigerians in Akure did not seem to buy this explanation as they took to the streets on Monday, the 10th of June, to peacefully protest against EFCC, rhythmically chanting EFCC Ole, meaning EFCC thief. Let's now see what Nigerians on X are saying about this. Our first tweet is from Eniola Akinkotu, who says, EFCC needs to change its mode of operation. Fraud is not a violent crime, so mode of arrest needs to be civil. Last year, they smashed my mother's door at 5 a.m. in search of Yahoo boys. She almost collapsed. In 2021, a man jumped to death at 1004 after mistaking EFCC men for robbers. Oh my goodness, I don't know. I can't confirm this, but yeah, that's from Eniola Akinkotu. Oliami Fashikpe says, the official EFCC, under the guise of raiding internet fraudsters, came to Akure to harass, assault, and brutalize innocent citizens in the process. We are on the streets of Akure today to express our discontentment. Hashtag stop EFCC brutality. And the next tweet is from Trend with Ola, who says, let's bring up Trend with Ola's tweet, who also expressed dissatisfaction regarding all that has been going on. We had further tweets from Dr. Dipo Awojide. Okay, but let's stick with Trend with Ola. Dear official EFCC, I'm writing with a heavy heart and my eyes can't believe how your men paraded as rogues and dehumanized Nigerian youths that have not been proven by the court of law to be Yahoo boys or fraudsters. The inhumane treatment, the inhuman and irresponsible acts displayed in Akure is a proof EFCC is becoming another SARS in disguise. It's almost 24 hours and you are yet to make an official statement. Without any deceit, this is selective treatment. We look forward to getting money laundering updates on Yahaya Bello, Ganduje and others. Now, this tweet was right before EFCC released their statement on X. Dr. Diplo Awojide says, we have a Yahoo pandemic across Nigeria, but the EFCC needs to be clinical in their investigation. Arrest and prosecution of folks who engage in fraud. Indiscriminate assault of innocent people in a bar or nightclub like that of Akure should be a thing of the past. And our final tweet is from John Network, says, the actions of EFCC in Akure is in itself an economic crime. If customers don't go out to those establishments for fear of being harassed, businesses will close down and people will lose their jobs. More young Nigerians will leave, not return. No amount of foreign trips will change the reality. Shame on you, official EFCC. Shame. That's from John Network. These are some of the reactions that Nigerians are having. If you or anyone you know is in Akure and can give us eyewitness reports, please tweet at News Central TV. Now, moving on to our next story, the federal government and organized labor are yet to agree on what will be the minimum wage for Nigerian workers. Recall that organized labor went on the strike on the 3rd of June 2024. This strike had quite the impact on the national grid, which was, of course, shut down, the airports and flights that were grounded, and the lawmakers who now see the need to pass legislation making it illegal to tamper with the national grid or airports. Such actions being referred to as acts of terrorism and economic sabotage, the SGF said. The strike was temporarily suspended same day with an agreement that the government will pay more than 60,000 naira. After much deliberation in the past week, government has added a whopping 2,000 naira, bringing the total offer to 62,000 naira. A figure that organized labor has rejected, having given a counter-offer of 250,000 naira. Now, there were talks of a strike, even though Joe Ajaero has come out to say that for now they're not going on the strike as they're waiting the president's response. He's currently in Geneva. But let's see what Nigerians are talking about on X regarding the potential of a strike. Our first tweet is from Maurice Moye, who says, my advice, if NLC does go on strike on Tuesday, that is tomorrow, that means today, that's the last chance for all Nigerians to come out and demand better living conditions. Since I was born till now, I've never seen governments shoot at NLC, even during the military era, down to OBJ era. It would destroy such a government. This is your opportunity, should NLC protest, he says. Sir David Onyemaizu says, I'm not saying NLC shouldn't go on strike, but whatever they do, make them not touch that national grid. Petrol is 750 naira per litre. End. The next tweet is from Daniel Rega, who is a very popular commentator. The NLC has to be realistic with demands. Asking for 250,000 naira as minimum wage is ridiculous. This will benefit government workers, but not Nigerians in general, as the cost of living will become unbearable. The more minimum wage is increased, the more prices of goods and services will likely increase significantly, which will only lead to more devaluation of the naira, hence back to square one. Think of Nigerians as a whole, not just yourselves. Remember that the new minimum wage won't be implemented in the private sector. And some would agree with that point. Original Just Girl says, for the record, NLC striking again isn't beneficial to the common Nigerian. You say you're fighting for the common man, yet you take away the basic things a common man needs for daily survival. Everyone up there, I mean every single person, is just selfish. Anyway, we serve Gumikam, and the church says amen. And these are some of the things that you are saying on X regarding some of these stories. Remember that you can always be a part of the conversation by tweeting at News Central TV. We'll be right back. It's time to head over to continue the conversation on Breakfast Central. Welcome back. 35 members of the House of Representatives have proposed a bill for an act demanding constitutional alteration to provide for the rotation of executive powers among the 6 geopolitical zones. This, according to them, is to ensure equal representation and reduce the desperation and tempo of agitation for the creation of states.
The bill seeks, among other things, the creation of the office of 2 vice presidents from the southern and northern parts of Nigeria. The first vice will be a succession vice president, while the second vice president will be a minister in charge of the economy, and both will be ministers. Now, joining us to discuss this is legal practitioner and public affairs analyst Chukwum Eze Diaro. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, thank you, Osaro, again. Thank you, Olive, and I'm glad to be here.
All right, let me probably just get your first thoughts, on this. I don't think any Nigerian was expecting to have these type of conversations when the year started. But now we're talking about, 6-year term, we're talking about rotational presidency, we're talking about 2 vice presidents. It's quite a lot.
Yes, it is. So interestingly, this is not the first time this particular bit about a single tenure for the office of president and governor has been raised. It's been introduced 4 previous times, and each time it failed. This is the 5th time. Maybe 5th time is a lucky time. Now, looking at it, right, it's interesting that the people who are pushing this bill are members of one of the opposition parties, the People's Democratic Party.
Yes.
Now, there were about 35 of them at the press conference. Now, to get this through, this requires a constitutional amendment, because in the Constitution, somewhere between sections 140 and 145, it's clearly stated that the tenure of the office of president is 4 years, and then you can go again, you can represent yourself again for a second term, and you cannot do more than 2 terms, meaning that you must, once you've been elected to the office of president, at any 2 elections, you have legally stopped from presenting yourself again for that office. Now, to get a constitutional alteration done, you need 2/3 of the House of Representatives to agree. You need 2/3 of the members in the Senate to agree. Then you need 2/3 of the Houses of Assembly in Nigeria to agree. We have 36 state houses of assembly, so 2/3 of that will be 24 state houses of assembly at the minimum agreeing to it. Now, in the Senate, 2/3 of 109 senators gives you about 72 senators. The APC currently, unless I'm mistaken, has about 60, 61 senators. So they will need help from another party.
Yeah.
Is this doable? On paper, it is. Practically, we'll see. And constitutional alteration processes are not very fast. They take a period of time. We could probably be looking at this for the next 12 months or 24 months or even 36 months, because you cannot hurry the state houses of assembly to get in their votes. Remember that sometime last year there was an alteration, and we were receiving reports that some state houses of assembly had taken their votes, some hadn't, and they had to wait the process. So very interesting times lie ahead, and we'll see what comes out of it.
Do you think that this is any different? I mean, like you've mentioned, this has happened over and over again. It's not a new thing. Ohanaeze Ndigbo have advocated for this, and I was talking about even at the 9th Assembly, they had debated extensively on this. In fact, at some point, I think they were arguing for 5 vice presidents. So it has taken different forms over the years. And you've said that, we're not quite sure, but from where you stand, do you see it being a reality in this current House?
It's hard to read this current National Assembly, because many times they do not follow established logic in arriving at their decisions. So yes, it's possible, and why I say it's possible, if the president then decides that this is the way the country should go forward, they will fall in line. Yeah. But to suggest that they have a very independent thought process separate from that of the president will be stretching the truth.
Okay.
Now, I'm sorry, very quickly. Now, this current iteration says 2 vice presidents. We have continually been harping on the fact that we need to reduce or cut down on the cost of governance. How does having 2 vice presidents make
Probably
any
need
sense?
another vice
because
president's
just
residence.
on Friday last week,
Yeah.
the official residence of the vice president was inaugurated. Yes, the official cost is about 21 billion, right? Now, assuming we were to get this on course, the second vice president would need a residence.
Yes.
He will then need a full complement of officials. He would need a full complement of official vehicles. When will the political class align with the aspirations and the intentions of the common Nigerian man and woman that the cost of governance has to be reduced? And this is not the way to go about it.
I mean, part of the argument for the reduction of cost of governance would be, as part of the recommendations would be that they want all the elections to happen on the same day. I don't know the possibility of that, because we haven't successfully been able to even carry out elections that are free, fair, credible. And they also want that we'll come to talk about the rotation of the executive, but they also want that issues regarding the dispute, election dispute, be sorted out before people are sworn into office. Do you see that happening?
It's going to be difficult. So let me start with the election dispute determination. Now, they're proposing 6 months. I'm a legal practitioner. Now, according to the current electoral law, in every polling unit where you allege there was some breach of the electoral laws, you must produce a witness who will speak to the breach. Now, in certain local governments, you could have 2,000, 3,000 polling units. Now, when you talk about the Federation, there are 774 local governments recognized in the Constitution. Let's even do an average of 500 polling units per local government. You then have an idea. And if you allege that there were widespread breaches in, say, 100,000 polling units, you are required to produce 100,000 witnesses. Now, the entire period is 6 months under law for determining election disputes. When are you going to start
and
hearing?
each witness is going to be cross-examined.
Correct. And you will find that from previous election tribunals, you are given 10, 15 days to present your case.
Yeah.
In 10, 15 days, even with cross-examination, you'll be lucky to call 10 to 15 witnesses. And for every polling unit where you do not produce a witness, it is deemed you've abandoned the allegation or the pleading. And judgment cannot be given for you in respect of that polling unit. So beyond all of this, I'm surprised they didn't really harp on the fact that we need to amend our electoral law. We need to remove the burden of proof from the person who is, from the candidate, and push it to the umpire. So first, the umpire has to convince the court that, look, we conducted it in accordance with the Electoral Act. Then the petitioner will then come forward and say, okay, even though the Electoral Commission has said it did, here are my reasons why I say it did not happen. And then the tribunal will then be able to make an informed decision.
Yeah. All right. I want you to also speak on, I lost my train of thought for a second. There's people who say that, I mean, the political aspects of this now, where people say, oh, this is, President Tinubu's way of trying to give himself an extra 6 years in office and all of that. Those are things that would definitely also creep into the conversation and maybe derail the possibilities of these things happening, or maybe push it even further or put forward. That's one, and then just speak on that first, and then I'll get you to the second one.
Okay, so like I said, constitutional alteration procedures take a period of time. So it's not certain whether we will get this done within the next 8 months, the next 12 months, the next 2 years. Now, if this is done before the first term ends, that is a very legitimate question. Is he eligible to present himself as a candidate, the first candidate to try the six-year tenure? Now, there will be schools of thought. One school of thought will say, even under the old arrangement, the maximum you could do was 8 years. Now, if you do 4 years, then you then present yourself, and this is a big if.
That's 10 years.
That's 10 years.
Yeah, but I mean, doesn't it dissolve the old arrangement?
Yes, legally, if they're able to get it done, yes. But the spirit of the Constitution was that you do 8 years. Nobody has a monopoly of wisdom or experience. You do your bit, you leave, and someone else comes to continue from where you stopped. Remember, we copied this from the United States of America, and it's 8 years. Now, if he does present himself, it will be very interesting what the court will then make of it, because I'm very sure it will be presented to the court for a judicial interpretation and a decision on the issue. So, like I said, it's hard to tell. Now, should he present himself? That is another question. His supporters would say yes, that he should be allowed more time to continue or complete the good work he has started. His opponents will say no, that's...
It's been a disaster.
Right. No, they may not say it's, well, they may say that, but they may just say, look, you are meant to do a maximum of 8 years. Yeah. Since you've now set this up, you should not morally be the first recipient.
Right.
Yeah, so there's also that.
Let's talk about this rotation of the executive powers, which is a very key part of this conversation, because some would argue that the position that we have right now doesn't, is in the interest of equity. doesn't give everyone a fair chance. So is there some element of fairness to their argument that the executive powers be rotated across the 6 geopolitical zones?
There is some logic to what they're saying. However, as a nation, I'm personally of the opinion that we should move beyond these sort of issues.
Yep.
At any point in time, we should be putting our best foot forward, not presenting candidates merely because they come from a particular location. Now, interestingly, I want to see how this will fly in the face of Section 42 of the Constitution, which says every Nigerian has a right not to be discriminated against. So, for example, you say it's a turn of the Southwest or the Northeast to present a candidate, but to the whole nation, the best candidate is either from the Southwest, from the Northwest, or even from the Southeast. What then happens?
So does this then invalidate the zoning arrangement in a number of political parties?
Now, those zoning arrangements in political parties are not legally binding. They're just agreements between members of an organization. And you'll find that even when they say they're zoning, some candidates come out and say like they're not a part of that arrangement and they present themselves.
Yeah.
Now, yes, the present system is not efficient, it's not tidy, it could be a lot better, but we cannot continue to pick candidates merely based on issues other than merit, competence, and ability.
All right, so I just want, your thoughts, if you were, because, I've seen arguments that these aren't the constitutional adjustments that we should be talking about in Nigeria today. So if you were, to put out one thing, that let's change the constitution here or there, what things would you suggest that they should be discussing today instead of, a 6-year tenure for the president?
Okay, so thank you. So one of the things I'll be advocating for is the autonomy of local governments should be inserted into the constitution.
Well, which is also one of the things that they are advocating for.
Yes, it should be inserted there, and they should have a separate account so that when money is being distributed from the Federation accounts, it goes straight to them without the input or interference of the governors. 2, I'll be advocating that the immunity of the governors be removed. Because in the system we copied from the United States of America, governors don't have immunity.
Yeah.
They can be dismissed, they can stand criminal trial, and they can go to jail.
Wouldn't there, the argument in support of that usually would be that we would then see an abuse of court processes and an influx of cases, frivolous cases.
So the courts in Nigeria are duly competent to determine abuse of court processes, and they have the powers to deal appropriately with such issues when they arise. So for me, because trace our journey from 1999 till date, a lot of the governors have acted with impunity. There's no incentive for them to do any serious work. And at the end, people spend 4 years, 8 years, and you can't really pinpoint what they've added to the development of their respective states.
Right. This is an ongoing conversation, and as we get more developments, we'd love to have you again. Chukwum Ajaero, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And that concludes our show for today. We thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back again same time tomorrow. Remember to continue the conversation on social media at News Central TV. I'm Olive MOD.
And I am Osaogi Ogbon. Thank you very much for your time this morning, and of course see you again tomorrow morning.